All right, guys, today we are going to run through slope doodle notes, okay? This will tell you everything that you need to know about slope. There is so much to get into, so let's get going, okay? Slope is just a vertical change over the horizontal change, okay? And it is represented by the letter M. It's represented by the letter M. M is equal to rise over run, okay? Now that rise is the vertical change that I just mentioned. Rise is that vertical change I just mentioned, and the run is the horizontal change. Okay? Now, when we say rise, what that means is how much you go up or down. And we'll get into that in a second. Run is left to right. So if you can't remember vertical change and horizontal change, think about up and down and then left to right. Okay? We can also think about it as the change in Y over the change in X. The change in Y over the change in X. We also have a formula for slope, which is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. The craziest thing about all of this is all of these different things, that formula right there, which we're about to label, that formula, the change in Y over change in X, rise over run, vertical change over horizontal change, they all mean the same thing, okay? They all mean slope, okay? Let's see why that is. Now, when we're talking about the slope of a line, it can be determined from a table by counting units on a coordinate plane or by subtracting coordinates. And the word subtracting goes in that blank, but I write a little big, okay? It can be determined from a table by counting units on a coordinate plane or by subtracting coordinates, okay? Now, when I find the slope between 2 points, I have these points here and these points here. The first step that I need to do is I need to label these points. Zoom in a little so you can see it. We want to label these points first. So I'm going to name them. Here's an X value and a Y value. There's another X value and another Y value. Since I have two of them, I want to name them X1, Y1, X2, and Y2. Okay? When I'm finding the slope from 2 points, I need to use that slope formula that we mentioned earlier. Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. After I label these points, I need to plug them into this formula so that we can see what our answer or what our slope would be, okay? So when I'm plugging these into the formula, Y2 is represented by that number 4 right there, minus Y1, which is -2, over X2 is represented by that 4 right there, minus X1, which is represented by that 3. Okay? When I have 4 minus -2, negative times a negative is a positive. So you change that into a plus sign or a positive sign. Then you have 4 plus 2. Well, 4 plus 2 is 6. And then 4 minus 3 is 1. 6 over 1 reduces down to just 6. Okay? So my slope for the line with those 2 points on it would be just 6. Okay? Let's try the next one. I have 2 points. I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. Now that they're labeled, I'm going to use that formula and plug these points into that formula. Y2 is represented by -1 minus y1, which is 0, over x2, which is represented by that -8, minus x1, which is represented by 6. -1 minus 0 is still -1, over -8 minus 6. When I have a negative number and I keep going or subtracting in the negative direction, -8 minus 6 is -14. And when we have a negative divided by a negative, it is a positive number. So our slope would be 1 over 14. Okay? That is how we find the slope from 2 points. Now let's go here to the side, underneath the actual word slope, okay? The slope of a horizontal line is 0. And if we need a reminder about a horizontal line, remember it is the line that goes from left to right. Okay? The slope of a vertical line is undefined. The slope of a vertical line is undefined. And if we need a reminder about a vertical line, remember that is the one that goes up and down. Okay? Then we have a note. Remember, up and right are positive movements. Up and right are positive movements. Down and left are negative movements. Down and left are negative movements. Okay? Now we're going to go up top to the man that is skiing down a slope. Okay? Slope represents the rate of change. Slope should be written as a fraction. Slope should be written as a fraction in simplest form. Slope should be written as a fraction in simplest form. Now, if you're like Miss Maxon and you can't fit simplest form into that line, you can write simple form, okay? If you write big and you can't fit it like I do, you can try to write simple form, okay? Now, when we write slope as a fraction, we write it as the change in y over the change in x, okay? That shows a fraction. And that triangle, don't let it scare you. Notice that I said change in each time that I drew the triangle, okay? It is the change in y over the change in x. That is the fraction that we need to find the slope of each line below, okay? So let's go right below. We are looking at a graph, okay? These are familiar things. It wants us to find the slope of these lines below, but the first thing that we need to do with these lines is to find the points on these lines, okay? It gave us one here, and it gave us one there. We need to know how to get from one point to the other. Well, to get from this bottom point to the top part, I rise 3, or I go up 3. Remember, up is a positive word. So we're going to write +3. Then I go to the right 2 spaces. Right is also a positive word, so we're going to say +2. That means the slope of this line here is +3 over 2. That is your answer for that line. Let's look at the next line. I want to go here. We need to know how to get from one point to the next. Here's one up here. They gave us one down here. Well, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 6. Up is a positive word, so plus 6. But then I go to the left 2 spaces. Left is a negative word, so that is minus 2. Okay? So my slope for this line would be 6 over negative 2. But this can reduce now. I can divide the top and the bottom by 2 to give me 3 over negative 1. I can go a step further and say that 3 divided by negative 1 is simply negative 3. So the slope of this line here is negative 3. All right? Let's look at this last line on the graph. We need to know how to get from one point to the next. I go up, I rise 2, and then I run 4 spaces. The fact that I went up 2 means that I added 2, or 2 up is a positive word, so positive 2, and that we went to the right. Right is also a positive word, so to the right 4 spaces. So my slope for this line would be positive 2 over 4. But I can reduce this if I divide both numbers by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. So the slope for this line is actually 1/2. Also, in looking at the slope for this line, I went up 2 and to the right 4 to get to the next point that they gave me. But if I use this new slope here and I go up 1 and to the right 2 spaces, I still land at a point on that line. Okay? Lastly, we're going to learn how to graph a line using slope. We're going to learn how to graph a line using slope. Okay? This box says plot a line that starts at the origin and has a slope of -3. Label it A. The origin is the point 0, 0. The origin is the point 0, 0. It wants us to have a slope of -3. If you look at the graph above, that had a slope of -3. And to get to that -3, I had to go up 3 to the left 1. So that's what we're going to do here. Up 3 to the left 1 and plot a point. I don't have any more room to go up 3 more, so let's try the other direction. If I start at the origin and use my reverse words, I can plot another point. Instead of going up 3 this time, I'm going to go down 3. Instead of going to the left 1 this time, I'm going to go to the right 1. And I still plotted a point on that line. Now you have to play a great game of connect the dots. Miss Maxon's no good at this game. But I found if I just kind of shade it out, we can make a line. And there it is. Shade your line, draw your line, and label it line A. Okay? This next box is a little blurry, but it says plot a line that starts at 0, 4 and has a slope of -3/4. Label it B. Label it B. So I want to start this line at 0, 4. That means I go to my origin, which is 0, and go up 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to start here. And it wants a slope of -3/4. I can't go up 3, so I have no choice but to go down 1, 2, 3 spaces. And I'm going to go to the right 4 spaces. I don't have any more room. Well, I do have more room to go down 3, but I don't have any more room to go to the right 4. So here is where we stop, and we're going to draw our line. Connect the dots. Draw your line. And this one is going to be labeled line B. Okay? Now here's where you get to have fun, because we're finished with notes, so now you get to color them, okay? That is why they are called doodle notes. So you get to doodle and draw all over this paper, as long as you don't cover your notes, and insert it into your journal. I hope you learned a lot about slope, and catch me in the next video.